If a cowboy film comes out, we don't ask questions of like, oh, why are they making another cowboy film? We're like, yeah, awesome, more cowboys, more guns, more horses. When it comes to Chinese American film, we get asked like, oh, why are you making a film? Because Bao already exists. Why don't we get to tell our story about Asian Americans or from our perspective, but also go beyond that and tell our stories about our humanity?
Welcome back to another episode of the Kurative Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Sutarji, and my guests today are Amy and Dixon of Anamon Studios. After a successful Kickstarter campaign, Amy and Dixon are leading a team of creatives to develop their animated short, Let's Eat, an Asian American story revolving around food and family. In this episode, we talk about building a team that you can trust to get the job done, handling harsh feedback, and how everyone should have an opportunity to tell their story. Enjoy the show. Hello everyone. Before we get to the episode, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who is watching the podcast on YouTube and listening to the episodes on all the podcast apps. There are many other ways to support the podcast. A few are to rate and write a review on iTunes. If you got value from the episode, you can share it with a friend, and you can email me at hello@kevinsutarji.com and tell me your story about which episode resonated with you. Also, when I announce my guest for the episode on Instagram and ask for questions, you can DM me your question for my guest. Lastly, you can subscribe and be part of the notification squad by opting in on getting notified on YouTube or any podcast app whenever a new episode is released. Thank you and enjoy the show. Amy, Dixon, thank you for coming to my podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So it's been how long since we last saw each other? When did you guys release your Kickstarter?
I actually recently got an email saying happy anniversary from Kickstarter about successfully funding our thing on September 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been maybe a year and 2 months since we met up. I think but way more than that, like a year and a half, because we took a while to create that video.
Yeah, for sure. And we were in talks for a long time. I mean, Corinne introduced us a while back and we had to do some filming and all of that. That was really fun. Like that was my first Kickstarter.
Oh, cool.
Oh, really?
That's my only Kickstarter video actually.
Well, I mean, it worked because we raised 155% of our Kickstarter.
Yeah. So if we didn't thank you so much.
No, you guys
thank
did.
you.
Congratulations. Like it's all you guys. Your guys' story is amazing. Like obviously when I heard the story from Corinne, it really resonated with me. Mm-hmm. And obviously, well, I think I told you guys, like I love food. So yeah, exactly. So it's really perfect. And from what I remember, like you guys talking about, like food is such an integral part of our lives, especially with our family, with our parents and all of that. And so I was really touched by your guys' story. And if you guys want to talk more about your story, about Anamon Studios and all of that, like feel free.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it, Dixon.
I guess should we start with the studio part of things?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can talk about your history with yourselves first, and then how you guys met and how you guys came up with the idea.
Okay. Yeah.
I can go over that super
quick.
Go for it. So for me, I actually graduated from UC Berkeley with a computer science degree, and I went into tech. Then I learned that I did not like tech. And decided I wanted to do something more impactful. So I decided to pursue animation. And that's when I took some classes at the night classes at San Francisco State University. And that's where I met Dixon.
Depending on what you really want to do, right. Software engineering might not be, or like being in tech is not really probably your strong suit or like what you're interested in.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe you're into more of telling a certain story versus like just working on someone else's dream of like making more money.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Okay, and how about you, Dixon?
Yeah, so similar story to Amy. This is kind of my second career. So I was kind of working at a t-shirt shop for quite a while, for 9 years, and felt it was time to move on and chase a dream. That's what it was. And I met her at school, and that was the beginning, I think, of us working together and realizing, oh man, like we make a pretty good team.
Do you guys work on like projects or anything beforehand?
Mm-hmm.
Before Let's Eat? Yeah, we did. Yeah, because the classes were not great. And so I think we basically made our own curriculum of like, you know, designing our own projects that would like accelerate our growth as artists. And it kind of just blew up from there.
That's good.
Yeah.
And it was just you two initially that got together, did a lot of projects together, and then started Anamon Studios?
It was me, and then I asked 2 other people, then I asked Dixon to join. And and then 2 of them kind of fell out. Which is unfortunate. They were great people. But then, here we are.
And so how did Let's Eat story come about?
That's good. Sure, I'll take this. Let's see. So I think Amy and I worked on a project, and we showed up to CTN with that project, and we got some good feedback. One particular feedback was really powerful. It was from Tonko House, and they basically said, "Oh, you guys should keep going, or can't wait to hear about the next one." And at the time, Amy and I didn't have any plans to make a new one. We just were like, we're just gonna do our own thing, find a job,
get paid.
But it was so inspiring that, we looked at each other after like meeting with them. Like, do you want to make another one? And they were like, yes, let's make another one. And then, all right, what should it be about? And I remember brainstorming on that very day. And then Amy was like, you know what, that nirvana feeling when you eat food, that feeling, it's like, I want to make a story about that because, she loves food, apparently.
Yeah.
We all love food.
All love food, yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to find something that like connected all of us, and food was it. We bonded a lot over food.
So for the audience that don't know about Let's Eat story, could you explain more about what the story is about?
Let's Eat, I would say the log line or, synopsis of it is that it is about a Chinese immigrant mother and her Chinese American born daughter. And it is their story of growing together and then growing apart. And I think the themes of it is obviously the Chinese American experience, food and family, but there's also the whole theme of taking your parents for granted and regret and life getting in the way. As a film as a whole, I would say someone put it in such a great way. It's kind of like a meditation on life.
Cool. And
that was me.
That was you. So to get your animation short off the ground, I'm assuming that you guys had to work with a lot of other people. How did you find your other team members to get this project off the ground?
Lol. It's a funny story because when we first started, we thought that this film would be only about 30 seconds. It would take us maybe 10 people in total. We would be done in 6 months. And now, almost 3 years down the line, 144 people about.
Whoa.
Yeah. 144 people.
Damn.
I don't think that's an updated count either.
You're part of that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is he actually?
Well, everybody who touched the film is on the list.
Yeah, I should put that on the list.
You're on the list.
Yeah, you're on the list. So maybe, So about over 144 people. There's a lot of things that we just did not anticipate. But in terms of how we grew as a team, at first it was we asked a friend to hey, do a Facebook post to find a composer. Right. And through that, the person's like, hey, do you need a 3D modeler? We're like, why not? And then he added 3-4 other people, and then they added their friends. It was like a word of mouth.
I see.
Yeah. And then other ways that we connected people was through conventions, online, friends of friends. I have friends at Pixar, so they contacted their friends, and through schools as well. Yeah.
One thing that the Kickstarter, and we had a website, was done really well. I think that really helped people when they saw our project. They're like, oh, I want to be part of this immediately. Because I think they felt the themes just through the website and the Kickstarter alone.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I want to work for this. And we're like, you don't know the story yet. And like, no, they know it somehow.
So then, there's probably a lot of interest that is coming to you guys, right? But then how do you guys filter out who you want to work with? How do you know if they're going to mesh well with you guys as well as the other teams?
We should talk about the composing story.
Well, okay, you can talk about the composing story.
So I wanted to compose for this, because
like music.
Yeah, I did. But being directing, it's a lot of work, and Amy was like, you can't do it. It's too much, and I was pretty stubborn about it.
Yeah.
And basically, I wanted. I told her, well, if you get somebody, this person has to be at least like a lot better than what I can do, or like at least equal. Then I'm willing to let it go.
Yeah.
I
think I went through like 10 composers. Like I just
more
kept on showing him one after another, and he was like, no. And I was just like, I'm not gonna find anyone.
He secretly just wanted to sabotage your interviewing process.
I pretty much did, because I kept on reminding him. I was like, Dixon, you absolutely cannot compose. He's like, but I want to. I was like, no, you cannot.
So where do you look for all these people?
Well, in the case of our composer, Max Lowe, so talented. I found him through a friend of a friend.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Like, I think it was Rachel who I asked to do a Facebook post, and then it was his sister that said, my brother's an amazing composer. And I was just like, show me his stuff.
I see.
And so then when I heard his stuff, I think it was like Mattress, one of his songs, and I showed it to Dixon, and he was just like, it's pretty good.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, technology, social media. I think a lot of people came from Instagram too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like Catherine Ho.
Wait, is that
what?
Public?
Is that? Yeah, why not?
Okay. Oh yeah, we should talk about that one then.
Yeah, Catherine Ho. She is, so if you've watched Crazy Rich Asians and there's that cover of Yellow at the end, Catherine Ho sang that song.
Oh, okay.
And one of our production coordinators, Julian, reached out. Was like, he suggested to me. He like sent me a screenshot of like, here's her Instagram. Her email's here. Email her. And I was just like, what are the chances that she's gonna respond to me? And probably not. So I might as well try though. And I did. And I remember like I think a week or so, 2 weeks later, like I get an email from her, and I just like yell in the studio really loud. Oh my God, Catherine Ho responded to me, and that was pretty exciting. And she sang for our film.
That's so crazy. I feel like a lot of people are too scared to take chances. Yeah. Sometimes there are opportunities like that sound pretty impossible, but you might as well do it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. The worst case is probably they don't answer, or they say no, right?
Yeah.
And so it's cool that you did it, and now you have a song, from her. That's really cool. Have you guys like reached out to a lot of people and gotten a lot of rejections, or were you guys like, because it seems like, okay, you weren't afraid to send out that email.
I was definitely scared.
You're scared, but you did it.
I did it because I was just like, what's the worst that could happen?
Right. And were you used to that rejection very often?
I think, to be honest, I don't think we've reached out to too many people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I think Julian, and them did, on LinkedIn and responding to people. I think there were plenty of people. Yeah, I think our list of people that like didn't work out is bigger than our list of people that we actually interviewed.
Right, and that happens all the time for everyone, right? Like when I look for clients for my videos, I reach out to a ton of businesses, and like I probably have like 10 no's to 1 yes.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, but I was really scared of like reaching out to people, like being kind of vulnerable and saying like, yes, I'm looking for clients, I'm looking for a business. And initially when I started, like I didn't have a lot of stuff. Like when I worked with you guys, I don't think I had a lot of videos out, working with a lot of people. Yeah. So
you knew what you were doing. And, like we really liked you, and you were like friends. You were like, hell yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, I only did a few videos relating to like interviewing, and like what I did for you guys was not as good as what I can do now. It's like
that's what growth is for, though, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so I feel like when you try to reach out to a lot of people, you learn from all of those no's, right? And you try to refine your requests to like work together and create business and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you still reached out even though you weren't sure she was gonna say yes.
I think what helps me when it comes to those, like I don't see them as rejections anymore. in terms of, because like I feel like rejection is like too personal.
Okay.
Because like I feel like, you know, they have their lives and what they're going through, and you don't know, right, of why they said no, why they didn't respond or something like that. So like I can't like assume like, oh, they said no to me because like I'm like worthless, or like
right.
like they don't have time for me or something. Like, so I don't see it as rejection. It's sort of like, oh, we just didn't align.
Yeah, it's timing too.
Timing too, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Actually, what I've been, I guess, what I've been hearing recently is that like there are people who have a certain goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if other people like have requests to work with them and it doesn't really fit into their goal, like you shouldn't take it personally when they say no. And exactly how you were saying, like they have something that they're focusing on and they can't do anything else. They can't be too distracted. Timing might be off, or you know, they're too busy or something. So yeah, I mean, that's a great attitude for sure.
Yeah, it keeps me sane.
Yeah,
so, you know.
For sure. So then for the team that you guys have, like where is everyone located, and like how do you guys communicate with them?
Wow. I think we just counted recently. We have people working in 17 countries.
Wow.
In North America, so Canada, United States, obviously, and then in South America, in Asia, and then in Europe. Yeah.
And how come you guys decided to work with people outside of the US or even outside of the Bay Area? Like, why were you guys down to do work with remote people?
I think out of necessity.
Okay.
And I think just people like, because I think we really started to go international when we went onto this website called Artella, and we posted our project like, hey, we have this project, we need these people, come work with us. And we got a lot of responses, like Artem from Russia, that's how he found us, Ciro from Colombia or something like that. Wow,
I think he's from Argentina.
Argentina, maybe Argentina, yeah. But we have people from Colombia, Argentina. I think there was someone in Chile, and then I think some other friends, like friends of friends, like Joanne is in Malaysia. Indonesia. Wilson's in Malaysia.
Cool.
So it's kind of, and also a lot of our teammates went to AAU, Academy of Art University, and a lot of them are on OPT.
What is that?
It's for international students, and basically like a visa, I think, for them to stay in the country while after they graduate. And it's like a time period where like on your OPT, you have a year to find a job here.
Oh, I see.
And if you don't, you have to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my teammates sadly had to go back because they couldn't find jobs here, but they still work on this project.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
So how do you keep in contact with all of them?
Slack. Yeah, or like instant messaging, Facebook, email, but mostly Slack. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're the producer, right? And then Dixon, you're the director. So as the producer, I'm assuming you're coordinating with a lot of people. How do you make sure people are making their deadlines and like making sure that the workflow is just smooth between one part to another?
That's like a heavy question.
It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears, yeah. Also having an amazing management team. Like shout out to my, I call them head honchos, because they manage a bunch of people. Like so, I manage them, and then they manage like the other 100 people, right, or so on production. But the way I think a lot of it has to do with culture, of like what we expect, because our gig is like 98% volunteer.
Right.
And so, and a lot of these people are students or recent graduates, even professionals. And I think culturally, the way we run things, right, because they're not getting paid, we can't force them to create amazing work or whatever. And so it's kind of like we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think the reason why people work with us is, one, we have a great story. Two, I think we're a great group of people. But I think mostly three, we actually care about each person as an individual. When we interview people, we ask them, what are your dreams? What do you want to do? What are your goals? And how can we help you reach that? Like one example is like one of our, she's so talented. She was a key light artist, and she said like, I want to see how my work influences the animation down the pipeline downstream. And we're like, okay, well, we'll try our best. And then one of us came up with the genius idea of like, well, what if she led the lighting team and gave them notes on lights? Even though she's technically not a CGI artist, she has the eye for it. She has like an amazing eye. And so now that's what she does. And we're super grateful, and she's like learning a lot. So, you know, I think with that, and like when we keep that in mind with people, I think that really motivates them to meet deadlines and push themselves as artists, you know, because they're super passionate, and we basically just give them this platform and this amazing film to work on, and they kind of just carry through.
Yeah,
you don't have to do much.
Yeah, that's great, because you guys talk about culture, and you know, how do you make sure that you're keeping the culture within everybody, you know, within your whole team? So because you know, you were saying that you're making sure that one person, that, you know, one team member is you're making sure that their interests are being fulfilled, right? Like there's so many people in your team. How do you make sure that everyone is keeping, like, being happy? Like, how do you make sure that everyone's happy within the team, happy doing their work and everything like that?
You can't always guarantee everyone's going to be happy with what they're doing, or like keep them motivated. Life happens all the time.
Sure.
There, like, things get in the way. Like I had this one person where I think we interviewed her, and the day we actually like brought her on to do work, she actually just emailed us like, I can't keep on working with you. My father got in the car accident. We're like, oh shit.
Oh, man.
Shit. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know, I'm so sorry. Like, let us know if we can do anything. But in terms of happiness, I think the most you can do is check on them.
Mm-hmm.
See if they're doing okay, and, you know, ask them for their opinion and see what you can do to improve.
Sure.
And for those who are brave enough to be vulnerable and actually say their concerns, we try our best to address them. Otherwise, I don't know, just keep doing our thing.
Sure.
I think for the most part, when people join our team, you know, they want to do what they signed up for, right?
Yeah.
So like they're an animator and hey, I want to animate for you guys. It's like, well, all right, animate. And then they're usually pretty stoked.
Cool.
That's their dream. So like, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. So Dixon, what do you do in part of this whole development process, like as director?
You mean just the process of making the film?
Yeah.
Sure. I would say the main thing I do is just to make sure all the departments are whatever work they're creating is aligned with the vision of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So, which means, you know, every department, let's say modeling, does this model look like it lives in the world and it tells a story? And then texturing, does this color look right? Does, you know, is the style right? All the way to animation and lighting. So
are you the guy that really signs off of each model?
pretty much, yeah.
Sorry,
but
I don't know.
We do
the
have
terms.
we do have in our team, we call them creative leads, and they are the ones that actually work with the departments, and then I work with the creative leads to make sure everything looks like part of the vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was there any difficulty throughout the whole process, the whole development phase for you guys, at like with whether it's working with people or, you know, technology or anything like that?
I would say mostly technology. I think that's where
technology was
pain
tough.
comes from.
And then mental stuff was mentally, I think we had some screenings where we can talk about the screenings where we got really kind of destroyed. But that's good, right?
Oh, it's like, could you explain a little bit more about that?
Do you want to explain this?
Yeah. So there's this thing that people do for films and stuff where they do test screenings. They you know, see how well our film does to like the mass audience, right? So we're like, oh, let's try to emulate this and do it ourselves. So we did about 7 of them, like showed it to about over 50 people, people that sometimes we didn't even know. And I remember our second screening we had our first one, which like we got critique. It was like awesome. We're like, yeah, now we know what to do and make this better, and then we'll be done with this thing in no time. The second screening comes around and we show our new animatic, and we get obliterated with critiques. Like, it was a very harsh negative criticism session. Like we were just being
It's
it
like
was
a
not-
slugfest.
it was a slugfest.
But it's good though. I mean, you need to hear these things.
Yeah,
you know?
there's like a lot of opinions that were like, oh, like why is the character doing this way? Oh, it's like it seems like this should be a feature film. Why is the mom not a tiger mom? Why is the character like such a jerk? Why is the mom so perfect? Like, there was just like so many issues with our characters and our story, and I think after that we were so demoralized. Like, oh, like I remember Dixon saying, like, is our story even worth telling?
Right. And were these people your friends, or were they just random people that were giving you these feedbacks?
Mostly random.
Okay.
Some of them are friends, like friends of friends, basically. Yeah, that were coming in.
And so, how did you guys deal with it?
In terms of during, we just kind of sucked it up, but then afterwards, I think that's like when we had like the emotional hangover of like, oh, this is worth it. But the way I think I suggested to Dixon, take a 2-week break and not think about this, and then we'll come back. And his version of taking a break was, okay, I won't think about the film, but I'll read an entire book about how to write a story.
Okay.
And I was just like, that's not a break, but sure. Okay, I'm not, because I tried to convince him otherwise, and he wasn't having it. So I was just like, all right, I'll just let Dixon do his thing as long as he's not working or thinking about the film.
Sure.
And it turned out to be one of the best things that he did, because he learned so much, and he was, throughout his break, always excitedly texted me, like, I learned this thing today. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Just like make sure you're taking it easy. And we come back, and we look at our storyboards and all our post-it notes, and we tear it all down, and we drew and wrote up what the film is today.
Yeah. So we threw away like I don't know 4 or 5 months of work. Just start over.
Yeah,
all
completely.
Down. Start from scratch again.
And was it? Were you guys taking the feedback from the second screening, or was it just more of like?
I think we kept it in mind, but like we didn't focus it too much, because I think a big lesson that we learned was like, yeah, you can take people's like thoughts and stuff, but like at the end of the day, if you know what you want to tell, stick true to that, and take people's other thoughts with a grain of salt. But remember what story that you want to tell, and
Yeah, it's pretty much what she said.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, the second screening had a lot of like solutions and stuff like that, and how to make it better. But
in their opinion, right, and not necessarily, but they didn't know what we wanted to tell.
Yeah, so if that's one like tip for all the other story writers out there, it's like if you do take everybody's solutions, it doesn't become yours; it becomes their film. So, but it is important to listen to what they're saying, because if they're saying something, it means there's something wrong with that part of the story. They may not have the answer, but they have this feeling that that you should listen to.
And one thing that I've read or maybe watched on YouTube or something was about taking feedback. And like there are two types of people that give feedback. One is that they're people who see for you guys the animated short, and then they like say, oh, I think the story should go this way. I think it should go this way. And they're not aligned with your vision. Where other feedback is like they understand your vision, and then they're just giving suggestions about like how do you improve it in a way that still stays to your vision. So in your case, your vision is your story, right?
Right.
So I think when I do my videos, like if I have it in a style that I like, and they're trying to say, oh, you should add way more transitions, or you should add this, add that. It's like, well, my style is kind of more minimalist. It's more like, just like, I want to tell the story without too many transitions. Maybe I'll have a few here and there, but once you add too many transitions, it's not my video anymore, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same for you guys.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So taking it for a grain of salt, like picking and choosing which feedback you should listen to and see which one gives the return of investment is like the way I think of it now.
Yeah. And it's hard to differentiate like what's good and bad. So that was a skill to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That
was a really important lesson.
And so after that second screening, you had 5 more. Is that right?
Yeah.
And how did those go?
Much better.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't take things as personally, or like we took it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And it like we were able to choose, because I think after the second screening, like we really grounded ourselves in terms of our log line, the goal we wanted, and we also realized that our film was also evolving as we were exploring the story, which was actually kind of beautiful. Like we kind of grew with our characters, and also I feel like as an individual, I also feel like I grew a lot in terms of knowing, I guess this is so cheesy, but like figuring out like who I was and like what the story meant to me and what I wanted to tell through it.
So you were saying that the story that's happening now, that the story that you guys are making now is totally different from what you guys had at the Kickstarter?
No, but I think in terms of its depth and like what we were trying to go for, like we found more depth.
Right. I think that's exactly.
Okay.
No. Like, it's the same heart, but it's deeper.
Oh, I like that.
It's like there's more depth to it.
There's this thing that you always say where like, you know, the first draft has like the most passion or the most soul, right?
Most heart, yeah.
Yeah, the most heart. And then the journey is like but it doesn't make any sense. You're just like, this is a bunch of gibberish. And so like the journey is basically dissolving it and then trying to rebuild it again. And if you are lucky, you can make a story where it makes sense and it has that same heart from the first draft.
Oh, interesting.
We wrote 4 or 5 treatments, right? Just treatments alone.
And then we went through like about 1,800 post-it notes of like drawings and stuff of changing.
It's little, you know, those yellow things.
Yeah, I remember.
18,000.
Sorry, 1,800. Wow,
1,800.
18,000 is crazy.
Hands though.
It's like Pixar level. And then actually they go through hundreds of thousands. But anyways, and then there were 7 animatics.
Yeah, and that took about a year.
So I'm always interested in like, you guys are working on a year-long project or, you know, longer.
It's almost 3 years now.
Okay. Yeah, like just multi-year project. Yeah, that's crazy, right?
It
like,
is.
For me, I work on a project, maybe it might take me a few weeks at most. Like I've never done more than like, I know, right? I feel so like lame now. Like
No, it's the nature of animation.
It's super, it's
Yeah.
animation.
It's
that's
a lot of work.
Your experience because you create great work.
Oh, thank you. No, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that like, you know, for me, I like to work on a project. I like to finish it, and I'm kind of done. How do you guys keep that passion for that project? Because working on a project for multiple years, sometimes you might get tired. You might like you might find other interests and stuff. And so, how do you continue on to that path? And how do you, you know, make sure that everyone else is as excited as they were before, or as close to excited as they were when they first started?
As this journey continues, there's like things like that second screening, like we were so low, but then I think we like grew stronger from that experience. And just like solidifying like why we believed in it in the beginning. And then there's like a lot of experiences like that we keep going, where like it solidifies like I believe in this vision or in this story, in this film, and I'm just gonna keep going. Then there's things that, you know, where we do get burnt out or something, but then there are people who joined the film, like Chris. Like I think we were feeling pretty low from the second screening, but then Chris comes in and he has like all this passion and this momentum, and I think we just like really drew in that like this absorbed energy from his aura, and like that motivated us again. So I think a big part of keeping going is our teammates.
Yeah.
Our teammates helped us keep going and made us believe in ourselves more than I think we ever would have.
Yeah, sometimes you feel alone in this, and then, you know, you felt alone, but we have a whole team of support. We have a whole team of support, and you don't have to do this alone. Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciate our teammates.
Yeah, that's very nice. I'll admit, like when I do my podcast, like I was telling you guys earlier, I release every week, and sometimes it gets really stressful. Sometimes like people are I don't get really bad feedback, but people are like, you know, oh, the lighting sucks, or I have too many filler words, and I, you know, like they make fun of, like, not really make fun of me, but they make comments that I've become more self-conscious about, and I get a little discouraged. And sometimes, like, even before I started this, I was like, I don't really want to be in front of the camera. Like, when what I was doing for the Kickstarter for you guys, like I was behind the camera and I was interviewing you guys. I wasn't on camera. I didn't have to worry about how I look, how I sound, blah blah blah. And like a lot of but then again, there were a lot of people who were really supportive and like giving me advice and encouragement to like make sure that I do this podcast without worrying about what other people were thinking. So I think that it's nice to get that support. It's nice to kind of like have people that are positive around you, because if you have people that are always negative, it's not healthy, right?
If you keep mostly positive, it's good, but those negatives are good too, because it strengthens your resolve. And it makes you question, like, imposter syndrome, like, is like terrible if it gets super overwhelming, but at the same time, imposter syndrome also challenges you, like, why are you doing this? And then you answer that question like, I am doing this because blah. So when you have those experiences of people like, oh, you have too many filler words, or like, oh, like you're writing shit, like you can be like, oh man, I'm gonna prove you wrong and I'm gonna get better and I'm gonna learn, or be like, my lighting's great because it's like, this is exactly what I want. And then that makes you like believe in yourself more.
Sure. Yeah, I think the as long as the feedback is constructive, even if it's like a negative feedback, it's at least it's constructive and in a way where they want to help you out, versus just like saying you suck. If they say like your animation suck, your story sucks, like it's not.
Just drop that person.
Exactly.
Just
that
like,
I guess
leave them behind.
I guess that's what I meant by like the negative people. Like if people are not there to help you, they're just making comments. It's not worth it.
No.
Yeah. So it's cool that your team members are even helping you guys as co-founders of Anamon Studios. Like helping you guys continue on, and having that support system is something that I'm actually trying to look for within my community. Like I don't have a lot of people working with me on these things, but when I meet other videographers or other artists and stuff, like it's cool to talk about our struggles and then like help support each other and stuff like that.
You need a shoulder to lean on for sure. Sometimes Amy and I are just like and then our management says, it's okay guys. It's okay.
Our team is great.
So how do you guys make sure that you guys are both aligned with your development and like the short, basically?
We talk every day.
Every week we're supposed to. We're okay at it.
We must upkeep, but we have a milestones meeting where we look at this graph of where we're supposed to be, and we talk about each department and review like where we're at. What resources we need, if we're okay, if the team morale is good, things like that.
How do you keep that in check? Like, what do you guys use to measure that?
So the graph that we look is very, very high level, and so we don't really look at dates and stuff. We look at the monthly basis. But then what I do is, and what he does as well, is that he talks with the production coordinators, and so do I, in terms of where they are at, because each production coordinator is in charge of like creating schedule and like when things are due and things like that, and we check in with them to make sure that they're in line, and if they're not aligned with the goals, then we have to reevaluate our resources and make sure we're on time.
So in terms of like technologies or strategies on keeping everything organized, what do you guys use? Do you guys use like Google Drive? Do you guys use like, have you heard of Airtable or Trello or anything like that?
So we use Trello for a lot of tracking our task management and stuff, because it's very complicated with animation, especially when you have multiple departments working on top of each other.
Definitely. And
then we use Slack as a means of communication, and we use Google Drive to keep track of a lot of our documentation. A lot of documentation.
And what kind of documentations do you guys have?
For our production coordinators, our PCs, we use a lot of Excel sheets, a lot of Word documents, a lot of PowerPoints, especially, or for our tech leads and creative leads, we use a lot of PowerPoint and documentation to keep track of like the visuals of what we're trying to achieve. And we also use Dropbox a lot to keep track of a lot of our like visual references and stuff that artists can refer to.
So I'm assuming that because you guys have a decently sized team, you guys have to pay for all the services like Dropbox, Google Drive. Is that right?
Google Drive, no.
We got a good deal.
Or Trello even, right? Because like you have
Trello's free.
even if you guys have a lot of members.
We max out the board. It's like 9 boards.
I think it's
something.
not by members, it's by boards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we just maxed out the boards, and then people just create it individually. Yeah, we're scrappy.
That's one thing that I want to say I'm pretty proud of. Like this, I think we're pretty frugal in that respect.
Yeah, very, very frugal. Yeah, we try to
Well,
be
not
as frugal as
frugal.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dropbox was a very recent acquisition, actually, because we just got additional funding so that we could pay for Dropbox.
Okay.
But beforehand, we were actually using this platform called Nimble Collective, and they sponsored all of our data storage, render farm, and licenses.
Okay.
So
Slack, we're using the free version of Slack.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always get emails about like you've reached like your 10K limit or whatever,
right.
and I'm
in
just
the
like,
storage or something. Yeah. So then, how do you guys make sure that you keep everything organized? Who's the most organized out of? Okay. So how do you make sure that everyone else is organized? Because some people are gonna be like, oh, I don't really care about Trellos. Like I don't care about keeping my tasks in the right column to say whether it's in the to do and the in progress or done, right? Like how do you make sure that everyone's still doing that?
Well, now I'm like so high level that I don't manage that stuff. My production coordinators do. But I think generally the idea is that if you set a system where you minimize the disorganization, people tend to be it works out pretty nicely.
Yeah, so I'm part of a dance studio. I'm a videographer for the dance studio,
right?
And basically, like we have like this Airtable is similar to Trello, but it is more of like an Excel spreadsheet, and we like change statuses and all that. And sometimes we don't keep up with that,
Right.
And so like the communication is kind of off because like some of these statuses actually help tell people like, oh, this is ready for post-production, or this is after filming something, this is ready for post-production, after post-production is really ready for release or something like that. So we still have a hard time even with the small team of trying to keep that in order. But I think one thing that we try to do is like stay in communication through Slack and like what you were saying, like minimizing ways for people to kind of stay disorganized.
So like you'll have like your drop down option where like you only choose like not started in progress final or like a review or something, right?
Yeah, and try to have things more like automated, like have templates and all of that, right?
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
a person on our team who like basically tried to automate the entire data storage or data like input thing as possible. So like because we have a bunch of Excel sheets where they're all connected together.
Oh, that's good.
And like in terms of like the frame count and everything, and so then I think people realize that their information that's in their Excel sheet influences other ones, and so that encourages them to update their stuff. Also having like percentage countage or like progress made, like people want to see that go up.
Oh, that's
like
a good
they
idea.
like update it pretty often.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So in terms of the Kickstarter, like how did you guys make sure that the funding was reached? Because I guess there's so many Kickstarter campaigns, right? Like how did you make sure that a lot of people were able to find your Kickstarter page and all of that?
Actually, the stats say that 70% of the money is probably going to come from your support. So we basically, for myself, let family, friends know what I'm doing, what I'm up to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Those are just numbers.
Yeah.
But we actually got a lot of people that we didn't know donate to us. So that was a surprise. That's why we went over our goal.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to talking about money with your loved ones, with your friends and all of that, it's kind of scary. It's like you're walking on ice.
Yeah. Well, I think if you just tell them what you're up to, oh, I'm doing this. And then a lot of my family members, they donated. I didn't even ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they want to see you succeed. So, yeah.
Yeah, my strategy was like to talk to as many people as possible about what I do, and then just like lightly mention I'm doing a Kickstarter in like July, and then I just like leave it at that. I don't ask them to donate. I'm just like, we're planning to do a Kickstarter, and most people actually like offer like, oh man, like let me know when you like post it, send it to me. Like I'm really bad at responding, but like please like email me and don't be afraid to ask. And I was just like, wow, that's like, you know, most people are very, very generous.
It was very nice of them.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what your timeline was in completing the project. How close are you guys with the timeline from the Kickstarter days?
We were severely delayed because of something that happened in production that was out of control. But
which happens, you know, once in a while, right?
Yeah, it happens once in a while. Yeah, this is pretty epic proportions though. Yeah. But we are now slated to finish our film in December of 2019. Though I think we're gonna just finish in January 2020 on the technicality so that we can submit to more film festivals.
Okay, and that's actually pretty soon.
Yeah, it's September 2019.
Yeah.
We're like 4 months out.
It's crunch time. We're
5 to 6 months out. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Cool. So I guess the next topic I really wanted to talk about was Bao, right? From Disney, the Disney short. And I know, Amy, you said that you really wanted to talk about this. I wanted to know what you guys' thought process were for when that came out and how it made you feel, Amy, how it made you feel, Dixon.
Maybe I'll go first and then you can follow up.
Yeah, you
Okay.
should go first.
Okay, so yeah, I think when we heard that Bao was coming out, I think it was like 2 or almost 1.5 years into our production. So we know our log line. Our log line is this, and you know, I read the log line for Bao and it's like, oh my god, it sounds really similar parent-child relationship about food. It's pretty much that. So yeah, at first I was like, I did feel a little uncomfortable, like having to finish this film if it's, you know, something that's so similar, you know, because as an artist you want to show a unique perspective or a message, right?
Definitely.
But then, I mean, you know, if you see about an art story, it's totally different. So that's good in the first place.
I remember Andrea. So we had our friend at Pixar, and and I told her, I was like, oh my god, she's like, no, they're not the same. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, they're not the same. Like, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay.
But also, I mean, I think Amy has a really great perspective on you know, on this topic. So, do you want to take it away?
Well, I think it depends on how you ask. Like, oh, why did you keep on... I think questions people usually ask is like, oh, are your films really similar to Bao? I'm like, yes, because they share the same themes, right?
At least on a high level.
On a high level.
Asian American family, food.
Yeah, exactly. But I think when people ask, like, why did you keep on going? That's when I want to ask them questions like, where is that question coming from? And so I think when people ask that question, it usually comes from a place of like, why is your story valid enough to be told? And I remember actually distinctly, like, one of our interviewees like asked us a question like, oh, your story seems like, she actually saw the animatic and she's like, oh, your story is so similar to Bao, like, why do you want to keep making this? And she asked that 3 times in the interview. And I think it comes from a place where you don't get people asking, you know, if a cowboy film comes out, we don't ask questions of like, oh, why are they making another cowboy film? We're like, yeah, awesome, more cowboys, more guns, more horses. But when it comes to Chinese American film, we get asked like, oh, why are you making a film? Because Bao already exists. So why are you making Let's Eat? And that's in a way kind of like frustrating because it's like, oh, why don't we get to tell our story about Asian Americans or from our perspective, right? Because I feel like for a lot of minority groups or marginalized groups, like being Asian, being queer, you know, being like poor or, you know, or whatever, I feel like we have a lot of tropes associated with like being Asian or like being Chinese, being Indian, being, you know, queer, or being a black dude that, you know, gets killed first in like the horror films, right? We have those tropes where we fulfill. And so in mainstream media, I feel like we're brainwashed to think that that is the only thing we have going for us.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than like, you know, instead of being people who happen to be Chinese and happen to place a lot of value in our culture and in our heritage and in our food, why don't we get to tell stories that, you know, not only do we get to tell that about ourselves, but also go beyond that and tell our stories about our humanity? Why not from Chinese perspective? Why does it have to be white or mainstream?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are not open, I guess, to more Asian American films or, you know, like Asian American stories. I think, yeah, just like you said, like when people think of cowboys, or they think of like, you know, maybe sci-fi movies, right?
Yeah.
Sci-fi
Or
TV
rom-coms,
shows, rom-coms,
or
yeah.
horror films.
There's so many. And I think like if another Crazy Rich Asian, you know, another rom-com that's like Asian related, then, you know,
People be like, oh,
they're
why
comparing
there's
to-
already Crazy Rich Asians, why are you
Exactly.
making other ones? Like, well, there's like these Asians are like, you know, in Brooklyn or something, and
Exactly.
like it's about like how they bond over hip hop and stuff like that. It's like, that's different.
Yeah. So I can definitely see people really criticizing because they're not used to Asian American films coming out or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
So that's why we're here, right? We're here to make more content,
Yeah.
so that it's not like, you know, like we're used to seeing tiger moms on TV, you know.
We actually
What
got
if-
that question at one of our screenings, like
Right.
why was Ma not a tiger mom?
mm.
Yeah, so there's much more moms out there that are not tiger moms, and
Oh yeah, exactly.
so I think
Th-
it's a
that's-
matter of just more exposure of these stories, and that's why that's our mission.
For sure. That's actually a criticism that I've heard people say of Crazy Rich Asian, because the mom wasn't tiger mom enough. Wasn't like
But you
Right.
have to ask yourself, like, why does she have to be a tiger mom?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, most moms are not, like, my mom wasn't a tiger mom. I mean, she cared about my grades, but like not to the point where like that one book that came out about like, you know, like, yeah, like the extremities of like Asians being tiger moms. Like that's not normal.
That's not everybody. Yeah, my mom wasn't like that.
Yeah, and your mom
No.
wasn't like that.
Exactly. So I think a lot of people, like you said, they just have these preconceived notions of what an Asian story should be like, and
Yeah, like
it's-
we fall into these tropes, and that's all we are, right? That's like
Mhm.
how we need to sell ourselves. But it's like no, like that we deserve. Like it's like that. Those are, you know, great like characters and stuff, but we can be so much more than that.
Mhm.
And there's like a billion Chinese people, you know.
yeah.
It has to be more than one story.
If there's like all Chinese
tiger
moms
moms.
are all tiger moms, like damn.
Yeah, that would be a little too much, I think.
Yeah, there's so many moms out there. There's so much complexity, and I think they should all be told.
Yeah, for sure. And so, in Dixon, what is your goal when you know, what is your goal for releasing Let's Eat? Seems like Amy really has this passion to tell a different story.
Sure.
Do you have anything different?
No, it's similar. But one thing probably is I think I like to tell stories that have an impact on somebody. So someone to watch this and go, oh, okay, like the message, and they might think of their perspective may shift, and maybe it'll create an impact. That would be incredible. You know, that we can tell a story that actually can impact someone's perspective for the good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's very cool that you both are using your talents to help tell a story, help provide a positive message, and that's what I kind of hope to do with this podcast. You know,
Yeah.
Tell people stories, but also have people be open-minded, learn from my guests, and especially from you guys. Like, you both are working on something that's multi-year. That's, you know, you've both gone through a lot of ups and downs. Especially with the screening and all of that, and a lot of people would learn a lot from you guys. So
Yeah,
Cool.
we can talk for hours.
In terms of what's next, what do you have planned?
This is fun.
This is yours.
Okay. Well, for Let's Eat, we plan on wrapping the film and then going to film festivals, and the goal is to get Oscar shortlisted. I feel pretty confident about it, as long as timing is right.
What is that?
Oscar shortlisted, so this Oscar nominated. Oscar shortlisted is the list before that. So there's about 100
cool.
films that get chosen, and then those have potential to be nominated.
Wow, never heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be pretty dope.
That's cool.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. And then, but beyond that, for Anamon Studios, currently we are actually in progress of working on pitches within the team. So we're setting up the next generation of films or content from Anamon Studios.
Oh.
Yeah.
Will you be working on it in parallel or just after Let's Eat is done?
We'll see. It depends on how well things go, and if we find the right pitch, find the right director or producer, or for whatever content that's being created. We'll see how it goes. But hopefully, if it can happen in parallel, I would love for that to happen, because the sooner it can start, the better.
For sure. Great. And anything else you wanted to talk about? You wanted the audience to know about Anamon Studios?
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
What is the handle?
I believe for Instagram it is at Let's Eat Short Film, and then it's the same for Facebook and Twitter as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it'd be awesome if once our film gets into theaters, you guys can check it out and watch it. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
That'd be awesome.
Feel some things.
Yeah.
Call your mom afterwards.
I probably will too. Thank you very much for being on my podcast. I really hope you guys enjoyed your time here.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Definitely. It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah. Cool.
Anytime.
Yeah, so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was hella fun.